All right, guys. Tuesday morning. Not going to be a lot. All right, guys. Tuesday morning. Not sure a lot of people are going to be around. But I've sort of been going over different things this week because I'll be going back to work myself soon, and I've been sort of weighing up how to move quicker. And the Philippines and Spain are very similar in how I did that. The reality is, it's much quicker to create money in the UK, not out of thin air, but literally earning it, etc., and investing it in Spain. So I'm looking at the UK at the moment to head back for a bit, do some work in the UK, then sort of hop backwards and forwards. Before this Brexit thing occurs, if it ever does, it makes it easier for April and the kids to actually hop backwards and forwards as well. So, at the moment, they can get in and out of the UK. I've also had a job offer for Ireland. So I'm still, should I go there this week? Because they want me to go in person. Where another contract's actually just looking at sign up and away you go. Now, the reason I bring this up is I know a lot of people may have a fixed retirement fund, for example. Say you're got a limited pension, but you're currently earning quite well at the moment. So I would recommend it may be a good time to actually look at property yourself if you're looking at coming here when you retire, because you could actually be renting it out. And there's been a couple of emails with people actually looking at that option. Plus, we've started this new WhatsApp group relating to the investments. The whole point of the investment pool is to basically help people in their retirement or make the transition to Spain. I suppose I can't really say non-profit, because the whole point is the organisation is supposed to help people get in a better financial position. There is a buoyant rental market. With the recent disasters in Spain with the weather, it also shows that where we're actually sat is a good location, because we didn't get hit too hard. Beaches are damaged, but they'll just chuck tons of sand back there and that'll be that finished. But at the same time, north of us got damaged, south of us got damaged, further inland got damaged. But Alicante Airport still open. I know some of the other airports were affected, and this is once in a blue moon sort of thing. We do get hit with bad weather every year pretty much, but not to the extent we've just had. But the main thing I wanted to mention is where we are, there was no flooding, no property damage in the La Mata area. From what I've seen, experienced, I know Torrevieja got some damage. The damage was actually here on the beach, which is another thing to take into account when we look at properties. We don't want front line. We want to come back at least 2 streets, just to give a bit of security behind other people's buildings. But one of the things I want to say, though, is there's nothing wrong with trying to plan ahead and get a foothold in Spain if this is where you want to be. There's certain jobs you can do here where you can exist here quite easily. I mean, there's a few people making some good money, for example, online. But also there's some people that get into bar ownership, etc. One thing I will say, you've got to weigh up the obstacle. I know a lot of people do it. I have no idea why. They retire and get a bar because they've got a redundancy or they've got a lump sum from their previous employer and think, I'll open a bar. A bar's got to be one of the worst jobs you can have, in the sense that you're basically in a fishbowl. Everybody's monitoring you and watching you because you're the person that's always in the middle. They go out, go to work, go home, go whatever, but you're always at the bar. On top of that, you've moved to a new country and sort of never leave the place because you're always at the bar because you're running the thing. So one of the things I want to say is just be aware of that. If you're looking at opening a business, it's worth looking at the businesses that are going to give you spare time. There's no point working your entire life or just moving country to do something that's going to be more labor intensive. You want to try and get an easier life if possible. For me, property is a prime example of something with an easier life. I don't mind doing bed and breakfast even, but if I was doing a restaurant, one of the things I would actually want is a restaurant that's capable of either home delivery or seats about 200-300 people, because then you're stepping back more to manage it rather than running around after everybody, and there's not enough money in it, because that's why you have to run around yourself, because there's not enough money to justify doing it. You can't employ somebody because there isn't enough money generated in the business. So I just want to sort of say, if you think about, well, I'll move over, find a job, it may be easier to look at what you're doing already. Because when I look at things like council tax, how much that costs in the UK, and you may have a house, a 3-bedroom house, say, and it's eating money away. Yeah, realistically, you may only need one room. So I'd rent the other 2 out. Get them paying your mortgage. Get them paying your council tax. Yes, it's not the ideal situation, but what I find in the UK is everything's becoming so expensive. Myself, when I go back to the UK to work, I'm not looking at hiring a house or renting a house, because my first thought is, I don't want to pay council tax, water rates, and everything else. I would rather just rent a room, because I'm there to make money. I'm not there to live or enjoy it. I'm there to make money. Enjoying life is here. And you can if you cut your costs down in the UK, you can make life easier in Spain, but also set up a longer life here. In the sense of, even if you worked 3-4 months a year, if you kept your costs down in the UK and come out to Spain, what you earn in 3 or 4 months, you could probably live here all year round, depending on your setup. Don't get me wrong. If you're working shelf stacking and have a family of 4, then obviously that doesn't make any sense. But if you're a single person, a couple, in our case, a family of 4, it makes sense, because I do project management, I do asset management, I do jobs in the UK which have a salary scale of around 50,000 a year upwards. So the point being, it is worth doing. Hi Maureen, good to see you. How did you deal with the weather, by the way? I didn't ask. I should have done, but the last few days been busy with a few interviews and stuff. I was getting an interview yesterday with a company relating to some schools as well. Okay. So whereabouts are you looking to travel? I know you mentioned France. Casada was untouched. Yeah, that's a funny thing. I mean, we see it even here with snow. La Mata doesn't get any bad weather in that sense. We can have people having problems north of us and south of us, the roads blocks or whatever, and we haven't even got frost, because we have the salt lakes, and when they get heated up by the sun, it creates this little eco-climate. But yeah, it's good to see that Casada didn't get any damage. I've seen Catral was pretty bad. There's a video up on Facebook where somebody was having a horse rescue and was up to here on the horse. And I've seen some of the other areas where all the cars have been destroyed, etc. Now, I'm not getting into infrastructure and stuff like that, because it's not for me to say, but I do think some areas do need to have a real serious look at the infrastructure they put in on these developments, because a lot of this could be prevented. I mean, even with a slight weather damage, you see the beach get damaged, and it's because of the way they put the pipeworks in. They don't, they put a pipework to the beach, and then when there's heavy rain, it just washes all the sand away like that, and it's like, it's not working. You need to do something else with it, but instead they just bring trucks of sand again. But like I said, I'm not getting into that because I'm not being political today. But good you were safe and didn't have any trouble there. I'm happy for that. I know. I think Anna said to Peter it was all right there as well, but some of the other areas there were some problems. But yeah, I mean, that's the other thing when you're looking at properties here in Spain. This is a perfect time to actually analyze where to live, because you'll see which areas got hit quite bad. And don't get me wrong, this is probably once in a decade type of bad weather. I know there's a lot of things going on about, oh, it's the global warming, it's all this. Spain's had a long drought in this area, as far as I'm aware, which is around a decade. So I do expect some of this sort of stuff to happen, but the UK has also had similar issues relating to flooding. And I'll put my surveyor hat on to say some of this is because they're getting rid of soakaways, they're getting rid of fields, they're getting rid of they're replacing it with roads, concrete, properties, and not putting enough drainage in for the sizes of these complex developments they put on there. Complex in the sense of getting rid of the water. So it's not a case of, oh, it's all coming to an end. A lot of it is actually man-made problems. I mean, when I used to look after Matalan years ago, we actually had a problem with water because it was actually the roof was full, drains were full, sewers were full, and it was basically just going back up the pipe. It couldn't actually go down. There was nowhere else for the water to go. And the reason being is the industrial estate was still on Victorian pipelines. So, you know, this is the thing. A lot of the time, the infrastructure isn't being put in for the size of the developments in the area. So, like I said, I'm not going to get into the politics of it because the majority of people only pay about €200 a year for their taxes here in this area. But in the UK, people pay a lot more and don't get as much as we do. So I'm a sidestep in those politics. Lazy Lad 90. Did you say I'm going back to the UK? Yeah, what I'm looking at doing, there's a couple of options on the table at the moment. One of them's for Ireland, and one of them's near Cork, and one of them's actually near a Luton airport. The point being is I'm looking at Monday to Friday, working on either project. Can't really talk about the companies of that because obviously it's all to do with the privacy side. But the thing is, at the moment, I've got a lump sum of cash that I want to put into a property. If I potter around looking at other options here, I'm going to be earning this amount. But if I use my skill set that I have, which is around large contracts, the income is somewhere around here, which basically means I can release the money that's sat in the bank at the moment to actually invest, but also I can add to it, which means the whole goal of this is actually to get properties. I want to buy properties in this area. A, we can manage them. B, they're easy to rent out. C, I also want to show that when I'm talking about property, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I'm actually investing myself. There's a couple of people out there already that are investing in properties that I know. And I'm in the property we're managing here. It's profitable. I know it tries not to make it profitable, but it is profitable, along with the fact that because of the way the market is currently, it's a good investment time. I don't think the Brexit's going to make any difference if you pick right, because I think what will happen is if you imagine tourists coming, I mean, the majority of tourists here ain't British anyway, this area. But if you imagine a recession hits the UK, people are going to be looking for more budget holidays. Spain's a budget holiday place. So there'll be an increase. They're not going to be going off to Thailand for a month or whatever. They're going to be looking for cheaper options. Well, you can get flights for about 40, 50 quid, and then book an apartment. I mean, we can literally, the mortgage would be covered. If we did it on a monthly, on a 1 or 2 bedroom, it would be covered within a 300 a month rent, realistically. The mortgage would be covered and some profit. But in the high season, it's about 300 a week or more sometimes. So the point being is there's options there it's weighing it up at the minute, because the main thing for this is to try and get it expanding out and growing it. I'm setting myself up. I'm setting up my own pension fund. That's what I'm heading towards. Getting a few properties here, getting the mortgages paid off, and setting up for the long term, so that when we get to the end of this, we've got, say, four properties, hopefully more, and then we just look after the properties, and I'm out here all the time. Johnny Fanta, is it a huge inconvenience now that you can't stay at your dad's house when working in the UK and your family doesn't seem up to much? My family are a nightmare, and as soon as I say something like that, I get abused from them. It's really funny, but yeah, I mean it's not that much of an inconvenience, because I'll just rent a room. A lot of the projects I do in the UK as well, although they are fixated on a specific office or a specific address, reality is you're often everywhere. When I was working with Carillion, I was in Portsmouth for 3 months. I was in Edinburgh for 4.5 months. I was in Middlesbrough for 2 months. You move around where the projects are, so most of the time you're in hotels. So it's an initial inconvenience, but at the same time, I've managed to do nearly everything via Skype. And as soon as I go, right, I'm going to be working here, I'll just rent a place, a room next to where it is. I will say room. I'm not renting a house. I just want a basic room, fast internet, because it's like even the kitchen, I don't eat in. Because of the work we do, I'm often working longer hours than a lot of people do. So we'll eat a proper lunch, and then I might grab something on the way home. So I don't really use a kitchen. It's literally sleep, laundry, back to work. And I just focus on making money in the UK. The rest of the side I'll push aside these days. So yeah, it's not really that bad. I mean, a lot of the time when I was at my parents' place, I was doing a lot of repairs and stuff on the property. So I'm actually doing less now. And location-wise, rooms seem to be from about 250 upwards, depending what area you're in. There was an area I was looking at, which is about 400 upwards, and London I found about 500. So that it's not that bad, because the thing is, when you look at London for work, for example, you start getting London rates, so that bumps it up. And I go in with the argument that if they want me to work in London, they're going to have to pay an extra X to cover the cost of the living costs in London. But at the same time, live in London, don't need a car. Public transport's there. It's pretty good. But if you live more rural and need a car, you've got the opposite problem. You may have to travel, got cheaper rent, but you're costing more in the travel because you need a car. So it's swings and roundabouts. Yeah, Johnny Fanta, I know you can choose your friends, but not your family. Yeah, I mean, for me, I've pretty much cut 90% of them off now. There was no, I mean, it's when I sat and looked at it, I thought there's just no upside at all. There was, it was just like, I couldn't see, they didn't appreciate anything anyway. So there was no, so, it's like a sigh of relief. Okay, they've took me for all the inheritance and everything, but hey, money worth it, well invested. Richard Pilgrim, hi Matt. Hope you and your family are well. Looking forward to my 2 weeks holiday in La Mata from 5th of October. Will be good to see you again and chat about investment when I come out there to live. Yeah, I might be here, I might not. I'll warn you now. The two projects that I've got on board at the moment, both of them are looking at signing off for the next few weeks. So I may not be here, but then again, I may do, because I might be out here at the weekends. But like I said, the main focus we've got at the moment here is to get the first properties. Because once I got the first properties, I can then start feeding more information about the properties themselves. I mean, I'll give you an example. There's a property that we're interested in that's for sale for 87,000. We know the property underneath it, which is the same size, sold for 60,000. So I wonder who put the 87,000 on it, since it come through a real estate agent. the point being, this is one of the things I'm looking at where I can help with the investments, because we will actually deal with people directly. There's a property out here I'm interested in, a 3-bed. The real estate agent hasn't even come back to me, but I know the people are on holiday because the sign has only recently appeared in the window, which meant they must be renting it out. So with that, I'll just get a letter and stick it through the door, give them my details, and we'll wait and see what comes on that one. Already spoken to the bank about the mortgage stuff and the information and everything else. I could do a video on that as well, I suppose, what information is needed. But the reality is, it's a good time to start looking at property. I don't see the properties going up in value here. They keep building new properties. But the thing is, the rents ain't going down. The rents are either the same or going up. I think April was saying the new builds in La Mata, I don't like using the word high rise because it's not a massive block, but it's the tallest buildings in La Mata. They're renting out for over between 200 and 300 euros a day in holiday season, because they're new, bit prestigious, etc. Got a swimming pool, etc. But the point is, there is money to be made in the properties, and that's why I'm sort of focusing on that at the moment. And like I said, if you look at it from a retirement point of view, you could start setting this up in stages. Say you've got 40,000 euros to invest, and you want a 2-bed. Well, a 2-bed's going to cost you realistically anywhere from 60,000 upwards, 60 to 80. I wouldn't really go too far over 80 in this area. You've basically got your 30% deposit plus your 10% taxes, and then there's about another 3% in legal fees and stuff, which is why getting the price pushed down is important, because you can get away with it dealing with estate agents. You're dropping it by about 5k, which covers most of your fees and stuff. So the point being is, if you bought something and then rented it out, you basically get it, rent it out, and somebody else is paying the rest of that mortgage off for you. They're also, if they're in there long term, very likely they'll look after the property. So you may have some maintenance issues like the water tank gone, or air conditionings need servicing, replacing, whatever. But because these are predominantly solid properties, you don't really get any issues with them. They're very basic, in the sense of the electrics. You got the electrics and then maybe a few appliances. But even the appliances, it's not going to break the bank if you've got somebody in there. If somebody says, I need a new fridge, the fridge broke, guess what? Just wait till the end of the month, tell them to go and get it out of the rent. It's not difficult in that sense. You can manage the property quite easily. But when you get to retirement, guess what? It's already been paid. Somebody's already been paying years of it off because you bought it early. But one of the things I do recommend is that if you're doing that, don't see it as a property to buy to sell, because the taxes going in, taxes going out. I see them as permanent rentals. It's the same with the properties I'm buying. I will transfer them to my children at a certain point, because then there is to get away from that, inheritance tax, because they sort of, it becomes gifted over a period of time, and it's done within a certain amount of years, so that they can avoid all that tax hassle. But the idea being is, I don't see this changing much. When you look at the properties, a lot of them were constructed, let's just call 1980, because some are a little below, a little bit ahead. You're looking at 40 years nearly that these have been rented out. That ain't going to decline. Cheap flights are going to continue. You'll get people say they want the end of aviation for environmental reasons. Yet, like the car, it's becoming a hybrid. They're using new technologies. They're evolving it. They're not going to get rid of a market. They're going to evolve the market. They'll move to solar or some other new technology over time. But one thing it ain't going to do is just cut it off tomorrow. The cheap flights will still come. People still come here on holiday. The UK is still going to have regular flights to Spain. Spain isn't going to cut the UK off, whatever happens with Brexit. It's no benefit to the Spanish economy. I mean, the UK relies on Spanish lettuce and oranges and whatever, but at the same time, doctors and nurses in the NHS. Spain provides cheap medical care for people retiring in Spain. That's one thing I really don't understand, is why people are quite spiteful in that, in the sense they think people shouldn't retire in a warmer climate that has a lot of health benefits because they should just stay in the UK. It's like being anti-British. You should get arthritis and suffer with the bad weather just so that you can feel more British. What? That's a madness. So for me, I would say this is a good place to retire. Got the infrastructure. I know I've done a lot of videos on why to live here, but from the property point of view, cheap flights in here, easy access to from the airport to here, fantastic beaches once they repair them again. But even if you're living here all year round, the internet's caught up. So even with the floods, we only really had issues with electric for about 2 hours. It was just sort of on and off, and then it was just fine. There's not really any real issues with having a property here. Don't get me wrong, when you look at some of the other areas that got really hammered, but some of those areas you'll see quite regularly people complain about the infrastructure issues. The warnings were already there in the first place relating to problems they have with water coming off the land, etc. Because even without storms and just rain, some of those areas have problems. Where I was in Torrevieja before, any rain, that street flooded up to the curb every single time, and is because of a lack of investment in the infrastructure. Don't get me wrong, there is problems in this area relating to how the planning and everything was done. I'm not, because I can't say what was done in the future, but was done, which is why the former mayor ended up in jail. Not because of that particularly, but building on land it shouldn't have been allowed to build on. But if you're building on land you shouldn't have been allowed to build on, guess what? That land would also have been good for absorbing water if it was marshland or something else that could take large amounts of water. Instead, you've got a housing estate on it. So yeah, you've got to weigh up the options yourself. But I just thought I'd do this video today because I do think it's... And if anybody's got any questions, please put them out there. I'll quite happily answer any of them. But back to where I was before. I find the cost of living in Spain cheaper. Now, if I was in the UK, most of you guys know how much it costs for a house. How to, like the day-to-day cost of it. But it's also... Like with me, I've got kids, and with the kids, activities in the UK, everything seems to be chargeable. Here in Spain, a lot of it's very, very cheap or free. Go swimming, it's free. Sports facilities, lots. You got free basketball, you got free football and stuff like that around. But also you've got a lot of tutors, which are anywhere from €3 upwards. So you can get math tutors, language tutors, whatever the kids need to study. I mean, you're talking about even in the summer schools where it's costing about €240 for the entire month for the kids to be away all day doing art or something else. Where in the UK, it's become a industry in the sense of it's become very professional. You can only have so many kids per adult, and the adult has to have this paperwork. The adult then charges a larger fee, to the point a lot of parents are giving away their entire salary for the childcare. So the point being is you've got to be aware that a lot of that stuff isn't really going on in Spain. The schools organise a lot of stuff. There's a lot of out of school activities. I mean, I think judo was €30 a month, and I think that was 2 or 3 sessions a week within that fee. I mean, I think that's a good deal. Johnny Fanta, I don't think Brexit will affect the holiday maker, but Spain could be quick to take back the tax benefits people get from being an EU member, inheritance tax on the tax selling property. They chase that anyway. They are always chasing that, and they will go looking for when you try to sell a property, they'll try and find that you haven't paid tax somewhere, because it can hold up the whole transfer process. There's been people that have had like a £5 savings account they forgot about in the UK. Like they're getting £5 a month interest on it. They will go after that sort of money if they can. So this is where it's important. You've got to make your decisions based on having everything set up correctly. There is bilateral tax agreements between Spain and the UK, which won't really change around the EU because those are already in place. So I can't see that being messed up. But then again, the state they get things into at the moment, who really knows? But I don't really see Spain chasing that too much. Anything that really affects their economy, I don't think they're going to be trying to create issues. They want people to retire here. They want people to spend their money here. They want people to have their pension funds and everything out here, because their market on the coast is property. It's holiday makers. Beyond that, there isn't a lot else. The entire market revolves around that along the coast. But also when you start looking at the bigger picture of things like foodies and stuff, and how Valencia, Madrid, and other places have changed where they've had an increase in tourism. The dynamic is to encourage tourism, not destroy it. Matt Gate, good day to you. Hi Mal, how's it going? How's it affected me and the family? We were all right. I mean, La Mata didn't really get too affected. The beach got hammering. There's some big channels being cut out on it with the weather, but not a lot else. I mean, we went to Lazinia the other day, and a lot of the shops were closed. But you'd expect that with a lot of people that work there couldn't get to work, or they weren't expecting people to go shopping. But in reality, the place was full because a lot of people couldn't go anywhere else. So it was all right. Connor Van Grant, in your area, what's the English job market like? Also, what can you expect in expenses per month living in the south? €1,000. Depends on your family size. If it's a single person, job market wise is very limited in this area. You would have to look at developing your own business. The majority of jobs, we've got a lot of people from Eastern Europe that are multilingual. So you're competing against people that speak at least 2 or 3 languages for a majority of the jobs. If you spoke Spanish or something, you might be able to get yourself into Aldi, Lidl, Mercadona, the supermarket jobs. Otherwise, it's like hunting down some bar work, or there's not a lot. There's not a lot on the English market. I'd recommend working online because you can earn more money. But also with the cost of living, our expenses are running around $1,200 to $1,600 a month. That's a family of 4, but we do have a fairly good lifestyle here. So if you're a single, you can live on $1,000 a month easy, because you can rent places, depending where you are, from about $250, $280 a month. Some of them include all the bills, so you've only got your internet to pay for and your food. And if you find a bit of work, you're golden. It's not a lot of cash needed in that sense, because a lot of the stuff is free anyway. The stuff that people come here for. This is why up in Benidorm you see people living on campsites. They've got a very limited income, but as long as their bills are paid, they're off to the beach or whatever. They're not really fussed on it. Don't get me wrong, they're not saving a pension fund, and I'm not here to sell pension funds. But it's not as expensive as the UK. That's the easiest way to say it. Mal. Yeah, I'm glad that we didn't have any bad weather here. We didn't have any damage. I'm just hoping a lot of people recover quite quickly. I know the weather's headed off to Madrid, from what I'm aware, so could be some bad weather that way now. Nilabel Belgrave. Hi, hello, good morning. How is Torrevieja? Torrevieja's, I think, probably in the middle of a cleanup in some areas. The beaches there got hit hard. I should actually head down there and do a bit of a video down there. But when we were driving around, because my son's best friend lives there, didn't really see much beyond. The seafront takes a battering generally, but beyond that, didn't really see much. The roads were open, everybody seemed back to normal. Johnny Fanta, is there a better job market around Alicante? I know it's a bit of a trek each day from Torrevieja or La Mata, but would there be better opportunities there? There are more jobs in Alicante. It's a bigger tourist market. Same with Benidorm. It's the biggest tourist market. But also there's a few call centres that way. But salaries in call centres, often commission. They'll do a guaranteed amount, but the guaranteed amount will not be fantastic. But there's one call centre I think's been there 19 years, so they've obviously got something working right. But if you're prepared to get people swear at you all day long and tell you to get lost, there's a job there because they regularly advertise. But yeah, there's more jobs in Alicante than there will be here. Torrevieja is one of the poorest cities in Spain. That's one of the reasons that the housing market is buoyant, because 50% of the population here, around 50%, not exactly 50%, is foreigners, which is basically 50% of the population are retirees, I suppose. So they go, oh, the wages are low here. A lot of it's because, guess what, they're retired already. But job-wise, it is very limited. You could find jobs further down towards La Xenia area, La Xenia Boulevard, because a lot of shops and stuff there. But also be aware in Spain it's quite common to have split shifts where you'll work the morning, go home for the afternoon, then come back and work till 8 o'clock. That's another thing you will get here, which might be a little bit different to what you're used to. Yeah, Mal, being single, my costs are €4 daily food wise. Yeah, exactly. It's you can live as frugal as you want here, or you can splash out. I mean, like Mal says, you can spend €4 daily. Yeah, because I mean, we can live like that here, but at the same time, we can also go to a similar restaurant for a lunch, and it's about 30-40 euros. It's the same as when you're here, right on the coast. It's a little bit higher. If you go a little bit like towards Quesada is another area that's worth looking at. Quesada and Orihuela, the bigger developments, and there's a lot more Brits around those, so there is options in there. But a lot of the work people do here is work they found themselves, because a lot of the work is not easy to get your hands on, because even when you apply for a job, I'll give you a prime example. I've applied for senior roles in facilities companies here in Spain. I haven't had any responses. Yeah, I can see the applicants for them around 140, 120 people. In the UK, I get headhunted. I don't even have to apply, and this is like the jobs now. These are agents that have come and asked me if I want to work for the companies. That's what you're competing with. A lot of the jobs here, the people are often educated in the sense of you'll find people have gone to university, etc., and they struggle to get into some of these roles. But at the same time, there is still options there. It's just that you may end up doing something you don't want to be doing, or isn't something you would have done before. But it's very hard to actually say, okay, this is the options for you, because it's like you search around online, you'll find there's jobs for carpenters, there's jobs for electricians, there's jobs for cleaning, there's jobs for just general labor type work. But it's getting through that interview stage. A lot of it is you've got to go face to face if you can, and try and get a connection with somebody in there, because you're competing with a lot of people for those same jobs. It's like a friend of mine was saying where he is, it's like the cleaning work's all picked up by the pensioners in the area, because they're adding to their pension with it. So it can be quite hard sometimes to get some of the work in there. Conor Van Grant, in what sense of online? It seems to be a common term, working online. Do you mean such things as day trading? Day trading is not working online. I would call that trading, because it's trading with your own money. If you go to things like freelancer.com, Upwork.com, people per hour, they all have online working, whether it's telemarketing, business to business, relationship